want to talk about an email that I got from a coach friend of mine. He and I were going through the same program together. We got to know each other. I really like his work. I love what he's putting out there in the world. And what he put out in this email, it just brought up something in me. Not that there was anything specifically wrong with the email, but it was just that it was pointing in a different direction, a direction that I don't know if it's the place in the career that I'm at. I don't know if I've seen it do personal damage to myself or my clients, but it just felt wrong. And I'll tell you about what it is, and I'll tell you about what the reaction was that it brought up in me. And I've got it on my computer right now. It was about my personal top 10 high performing habits. Now, there is nothing wrong with high performing habits. Nothing wrong at all. I do think there is a usefulness to making sure that when we have a list of things that we need to do, we are able to do them. You might hear the word hacks. I've got a little quibble with that, but the idea that there are these ways that we can be more productive, we can be more efficient, we can get shit done, right? All of those things. And I think there is something implicit in saying, if you do these things, then you will be, it is implied, happy. If you do these things to get your goal, then it is implied you will be happy. And what I've found, and maybe my reaction to this email, to this idea, is that often gets it backwards. That most people start from this idea, and I've seen this in myself. I have 2 or 3 decades of doing this myself, maybe more. I've seen it in my clients. I see it in the founders that I work with. I see it in the people who are trying to succeed in the corporate world. I see it in lawyers. I see it everywhere. And there is this idea that there is something fundamentally wrong with me, and I'm going to achieve my way out of it. So for me, I grew up feeling that my mom, my family, the people around me wanted me to be more like my dad. My dad, he was an amazing man. Everyone loved my dad. Of course, he had his flaws, but he was when he was in high school, he was the homecoming king. He was the class president. He was the high school quarterback. He was all those things, right? I was none of those things. I was this chubby, sweaty, stressed out kid who figured out along the way that he could get good grades. So I figured if I can get some semblance of reward or feel like I'm making some progress or feel like I have some sense of self-worth through this grade thing, then I'm going to double down on that. And almost every overachiever that I've talked to has had some issue similar to that. Some of them were emotionally abused by their parents. Some of them had parents with substance addiction, abuse kinds of issues. So it's like when you're a kid and what you most need is to be accepted for who you are, and you figure out that's not gonna work, then you develop strategies. And some people are good with grades. Some people are good with entrepreneurship. Some people are good at leading people. And they double down on these things. And they double down on these things thinking at some point they will do it enough to feel good about themselves. And that's the fundamental flaw. And that's the thing that I see things like high performance habits pointing at. It's not that the habits themselves are bad. It's that the implication is that on the other side of high performance, there is satisfaction, there is happiness, there is fulfillment, there is purpose, all these things. And there is none of that, because each one of those things can only be generated, can only be created internally. There is nothing that anyone can ever say to you to make you feel better about yourself for more than a moment or two if you don't fundamentally feel good about yourself. And so the work is internal. And the interesting thing is, as you do more and more of that internal work, then you're able to let go of some of that external stuff that you shouldn't be doing anyway. If you're a founder of a business, you should not be running everything once your business hits a certain level of revenue or a certain number of employees. You need to bring in people and let them run. The paradox in growing a business is that to grow a business, you have to give up control. And if you're convinced that the only way that you can prove you're enough is to remain in control of everything, you've got yourself a problem. So that's a lot. I think, the idea of high performance habits, great. The idea of high performance habits as a path to happiness and fulfillment, deeply flawed. The idea of starting with fulfillment, starting with the work that's necessary to see that you are already and always have been enough, and then coming from that place, what do you really want? What does your authentic self really want? And then creating that and trusting that if you want it, it's a sign that some small part of the universe wants it too, right? And that there will be people who will find you and want that from you. That is your gift. Give it, create it, sell it, however that happens to show up for you. And trust that on the other side of that is all of the things that you're looking for, including probably a decent living. So with that, I'll let you think about it. Always feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Take care, and I'll see you next week.